Good evening and welcome to a Day in the Job series by Career Development Cell, IIT Madras, which is intended to help provide a glimpse into various sectors via sessions and conversations with alumni. In today's session, we would be exploring product management or PM roles. These have quite recently and rapidly become one of the most sought after roles, and a number of people with an engineering background are shifting to it at various levels. It can be found in diverse set of firms, from smaller scale startups to established startups and corporates. To understand this all better, we have with us Mr. Advait Sridhar today. Advait is currently an associate product manager at Flipkart. He has also co-authored a book titled Preparing for Product Interviews, a productive guide to landing a job in PM. He graduated from IIT Madras in 2019 from the Department of Electrical Engineering. He was a national winner in Samsung Edge case study competition. He is also recipient of Dr. Shankar Dayal Sharma Prize for Best Outgoing BTech Student and the Institute Blues Bronze Award for all-round performance. Hi, Advait. Thank you for taking out your time of your schedule for joining us today.
Hey man, I love the formal intro, by the way. Like, good stuff, dude. Wearing formals, formal intro. Nice. Good.
Sure. So, to begin today's session, could you give us a brief introduction to the product management from your understanding?
Yeah, sure, dude. So, product management is this weird word. Like when I was sitting for placements, that was when the role was just starting off in campus and nobody knew what the word meant. And I remember we had this one by Arindam, who is the head of product management at Flipkart. He heads the APM role as well. So Arindam has like this Venn diagram that he shows from his HBS days. I'll just present the Venn diagram to you guys now because it's so popular and such a term used to describe product management. So you guys can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome. So I just Googled product management, and this is the first thing that always pops up, which is this Venn diagram, which has UX on one side, tech on one side, and business on one side. And in the intersection, you see product management sitting over there, right? And so I know this is supposed to be some revolutionary Venn diagram that will teach you what product management is, but this sort of just confused me more when I was sitting for placements. I was like, okay, so yeah, it's usually UX or design here. So there are design guys, there are tech guys who are all these software developers, and there are the businessy guys. But like, what does it mean to be in the center of this? And so I realized that there's actually a better way to explain it, maybe. And so this is one thing that I've been thinking about for some time now. So let me just tell you this, Ashish, and you tell me whether it makes sense or not. Okay. So
Sure.
you know how politicians who is a politician, right? Politician is somebody who is elected by the people to represent their interests and like get policies for them. Makes sense,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So why do you need this politician to be elected by the people? Because you want somebody who understands the people well and will make policies in their favor, right? Now, so whether this happens in practice actually or not is another question, but this is what role is. So now, suppose say you came before democracy was a thing and you asked who should be the ruler of this country, you probably wouldn't have said somebody like this. You would probably have said something like, okay, somebody who actually knows what governing means, somebody who knows how to launch policies, somebody who knows how to handle a large government and a set of bureaucrats. That guy should be the one running the country.
Correct.
Right? And but then that system didn't really work out. And then somebody else came and said, no, we need somebody who understands the people, and that guy should be the one running it. It's okay if that guy doesn't know how policies are set and so on. That's why you have this whole army of IAS officers and bureaucrats and government service and Niti Aayog and all those people. They are the experts, but you need someone who understands what the people want really well, and let that guy run the country. He can so how the political system essentially works is the politician just understands the people. He doesn't need to understand anything else. He comes and says, okay, see, I understand the people. This is what the people want. This is what we should do for them. We should have an mRNEGA scheme. We should take COVID seriously and tackle it. We should do this. We should do that. We should not do this. We should build a statue of unity, maybe. But basically, he's the one who says, I understand the people and this is what needs to be done.
Correct.
And it's okay if he can do it. He then tells his whole army of people to go ahead and execute it, right?
True.
So now the equivalent to the product manager's role is this, wherein the product manager does not have to be the expert in tech, does not have to be the expert of design, does not have to be the expert of business and how financials work, but he has expert of what people want.
Correct.
So you need to have somebody who understands the user really well, doesn't care about whether it's implementable or not, but understands what they want really well. Somebody who can then say, okay, this is what we should build for the users. And then it's okay if he actually doesn't go and code it out, or he doesn't go and design it out, and he doesn't go and figure out how to make money for us. But he should know he or she should know what makes sense for the user, and then say, this is what we should do. And then the tech team picks it up and builds it. The design team picks it up and designs it. The business team's like, okay, see, this makes money. This won't make money. Let's try doing this instead. So that, I feel, is a better analogy. Does that make sense to you?
Totally makes sense.
Right. So if I had to sum up product management in one word, it's the person who understands the user and can then convince tech, design, and business teams to go ahead and build this out for the user.
Got it. So one sort of counter question at this juncture, like when you mentioned like you sort of have a vision for the product as such, and you have to convince the teams to do it, do you still play a significant part in, let's say, deploying the idea you have, or is it just the idea, you just let it out there and they take it forward?
Oh, great question. Great question. So I can say product management is broadly split into two roles. So you have the first bit where you spend maybe 20% or 30% of your time, which is what we just talked about, which is you understand the user and you say, okay, I think we should go about building this.
Correct.
Then the rest, 70-60% of your time, that goes in actually making sure that product gets executed the way you want it to and gets launched, and you look at the feedback. So there are broadly two stages: the ideation stage, wherein you say that, okay, this is a problem my user is facing, this is what I want to do about it. Then the execution stage, wherein your engineering team will start working on building it out, your design team will start sketching it out, and so on. And you have to be there at each stage, talking to each of these teams, looking at what they're building to make sure that it aligns with your end goal. So if the engineering team midway says that, hey, you know what, it's too difficult to build out this feature, let's just drop it for now. But you should be like, no, I believe this is really important for my users. It doesn't matter if other things are there, but this has to be there. Hence, you need to build this out. Similarly to designers, you'll be like, hey, see, the design looks really aesthetic and all, but I feel like users don't really care about it. Do we really need to be spending so much time designing this feature right now?
Yeah.
So as the voice of the customer, it's not just enough for you to like drop your idea and walk off. Correct. But you need to ensure that you're also there each step of the way when it's being executed. So yeah, broadly two sets of ideation and then execution.
Got it. So like within PM itself, like do you think there are any subdivisions as such? Like PM role means different in different firms. Is it so, or do you think the role is pretty much the same everywhere?
Great question. So it's not just, so it's different. So like so this is actually the way to look at it, right? So as a PM, you have to understand your users really well, right? Correct. Now this user is different for different settings, obviously, right? So let's say if you are a PM at Netflix, the kind of user persona or the kind of user needs that you are trying to meet is very different from if you're a PM at Flipkart, right? Like what I expect out of an e-commerce product is very different from what I expect out of a video streaming product.
Of course.
If I was a PM at Uber, my users expect something very different from me than they would expect for either Flipkart or Netflix, right?
Correct.
And accordingly, everything like what you want. So obviously what you want to build will change. But from that, what kind of ideas you can look at, how your tech teams will work, what is possible, what is not, what are the areas you can explore, all that changes. Now, the second, so again, I would still say this is broadly like one kind of PM role, wherein which your end users are still people like you and me, the masses, basically.
Yeah.
There is another kind of PM role where your end user is not you and me, but other people within my company. So let me take an example for you. So you know Flipkart, right? Flipkart has this, on Flipkart, basically you order a product online and then it gets delivered to you.
True.
So now if I was somebody who was designing the Flipkart app or website, I would be ensuring that you, the masses, can order as easily as possible. Make sense?
Yep.
Now, but there's a whole different aspect to it, right? Once you order, you also want it delivered on time. True. And for that to happen, there's a huge amount of magic that happens behind the scenes, wherein which we have to get this product from this seller, get it to our warehouse, from that warehouse, transport it to this other warehouse. some other warehouse, pass it on to a smaller warehouse somewhere in the city. From the city, get the delivery guy to pick it up, optimize his route so that it drops exactly at your house at exactly this time, and so on, right?
Correct.
And that guy has to know whether it's cash on delivery, whether it's payment by credit card, how much needs to be paid, whether he has to drop it and go, or whether he can come and give it to you. So there are so many things that have to be know that all this is happening, right? If all this happens well, you as end user won't even know that it's happening behind the scenes. If something screws up, your shipment will get delayed, and then you'll be very pissed about it.
Correct.
Right? So the second kind of product manager is the one who is the sort of invisible product managers, wherein their job is to ensure that things work well behind the scenes, so that things work smoothly for the end user. So there is a product manager who ensures that the supply chain, who builds products for supply chain. So basically, in a warehouse, how do you slot your products optimally so that you can remove them as fast as possible?
Correct.
So the system that you use, the software that you will build, the apps that those warehouse managers will use, the apps that those people walking on the floor will use, that is a very different type of product management than building something for you or me.
True.
These are very controlled. You can tell them what to do and what not to do. Your challenge there is, how do I reduce costs? How do I ensure that it happens as fast as possible and so on? So very different. It's not like you care about the happiness of the user, but you care about things like cost, you care about the time and so on.
Correct. Like for the internal usage as such.
Yes.
Got it. Sure. So to get a little bit more insights as to what a product manager does, could you just walk us through what an average day in your life looks like as a PM at Flipkart?
Sure. So I'll talk you through like one of the products that I built in my term at Flipkart.
That'd be great.
So right. So basically a marketplace, right? Now, what is a marketplace? It's on a marketplace. On one side, you have users like you and me. On the other side, you have sellers.
Okay.
Who give the, so we are the guys who buy products. They are the guys who sell the products. Pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
It's similar to Uber, where in which you have two sets of people. One is people like us. The other is the taxi drivers. Both of these are partners. None of them are employees of Flipkart or Uber.
Okay. Yeah.
So in a marketplace, you have to ensure that everybody is happy. People like you and me are happy. True. And people like the sellers are happy. Similarly, Uber has to ensure that we are happy and the taxi drivers are happy. Otherwise, you have all those boycotts and strikes and whatnot.
Of course.
Right? So, so when my first stint at Flipkart was working with that side, that is the sellers, right? So I wasn't doing something facing us. I was doing something facing sellers. Okay. These sellers are, you have to like think about, better understand who they are. They're probably people like, if you go to a bazaar, right, you'll see like lots of tiny shop owners.
Correct.
So these currently today Flipkart has a lot of big brands on the platform, but we don't have these guys.
I see.
And we understand that if we really want to be like a one-stop shopping destination, we need to get every seller possible on the platform so that there's as much variety as possible.
Correct.
Right? So my target, my users were these small sellers. And my mission was to ensure that we get as many of them onboarded on Flipkart as easily as possible.
I see.
Sounds good. So that's how I start off. You know what? So as a product manager, you know what my user is now.
Correct.
And you know what the problem statement is.
Got it.
Right? These are the two most important things. Now I had to figure out how to make it easy for them to get on Flipkart. So basically, if you look at Flipkart today, right, you'll see that if you go to any image, any product, and you look at the image, you'll see that the image is white background. The image is really clear. You can zoom in on the product and see everything about it. You can see all the details of the product from the side and so on, right? Oh, by the way, before I continue, just like clearing out one common misnomer here. When I say product management, I'm not talking about products like shoes and clothes and all that, which you see on the Flipkart website. That's a very different product. I'm talking about tech products over here. So the app itself is one product which will have a product manager.
Yeah.
I may use the words interchangeably now, so you might hear me saying product for the words clothes and shoes and all as well. Maybe I'll call them goods or something, but in case I call them product, just understand that that's not the product management product.
Sure.
Okay. So I, as product manager building tech product, have to help sellers easily onboard their goods on the platform.
Sure.
Right. Now the problem is that goods on Flipkart, you have like a professional photo shoot done on them. So you'll see white background, you'll see multiple views, high definition images, you can zoom in on the images and so on.
Correct.
And in order to make it easier for us to search, for customers like us to search, what we do is we ask them to fill in a lot of details about their goods as well. So for a shoe, is it a leather shoe? Is it a formal shoe? Is it a tennis shoe? Is it a sport shoe? What size is the shoe? what color is the shoe, what brand is the shoe. There are like around 20 to 40 different attributes about a good
Correct.
that a seller needs to fill in before they put it on the platform. Okay.
True.
So just imagine you're like a shoe seller who has like a small shop somewhere. You have maybe like 5,000 different shoes with you in your shop,
Correct.
and you want to get onto Flipkart tomorrow. Now, can you imagine for each 5,000 shoes, you have to go get a professional photo shoot done. You have to like go and write down. After that, you have to bring it. You have to write down 20 attributes about each shoe. For 5,000 shoes, you have to do this one by one for each shoe. It's a nightmare, right?
Correct.
Like who's like the cost of getting a photo shoot done for one shoe itself is $400. So imagine 400 to 5,000 right there. It's like 2 lakhs, man. Who's going to spend 2 lakhs getting onto Flipkart, right?
True.
So
way too much.
these are, yeah. So if you think about it, there are a lot of big pains which these sellers face, and my job is to ensure that they don't face these pains, right?
Yes.
So now you know the user, you know in detail the problem they face, right?
Correct.
Which is to onboard on Flipkart, they need to get all this crazy shit done. They need to write a lot of things, and they need to get professional photo shoot. Both of them they cannot do.
Yeah.
Right. So this is how I started off. This was the problem statement assigned to me. I had to understand this in more detail, understand these sellers in more detail. And then what I propose is that, okay, so these look like classic CV problems, computer vision problems. So, for example, instead of doing a professional photo shoot, what if you just let a seller take a photo of a shoe on his table and you automatically edit the background out? What if you let them take a shoe and you take a photo of the shoe and you automatically tell them, okay, take these 3 other angles as well and you're done. What if you can tell them that, okay, see, the photo that you just took is too grainy, or there's too much of a shadow falling on it, or the lighting is not good enough. Take it from this angle instead, but it's easier for you to take your photo.
Okay.
Right? So all these, like, so the first problem, instead of getting a professional photo shoot, what we said is we will simply just launch an app. This app will allow them to take a professional type of photo shoot for their products without having to go to the studio. They can take it on their own here, and we will use ML and CV in the background in order to edit backgrounds, in order to make the definition sharper, in order to figure out what other views are needed, and so on.
Got it.
One problem solved.
Yeah.
So second problem, they have to fill in too many attributes, right? So they have to tell us whether it's a leather shoe, tennis shoe, blah, 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 so on. Again, another very classic ML problem, which is given an image of a product.
Yeah.
Can I classify it into one of the following classes? So my output classes would be something like formal, casual, party, so on and so forth. Input is an image. Can I build ML models to do this? Again, it's a pretty straightforward ML problem statement, especially when you have so many images already on Flipkart, which you can use as training material. True. It becomes straightforward to do, right? So
makes sense.
This is how we tried to solve the 2 problems. So it finally became, today the seller's process would be open our app, take a photo, automatically image gets edited, automatically tells you what other photos you need to take. Once you have taken them all, we will pre-populate all these things about the shoe for you.
Correct.
Then the third challenge is a lot of these sellers, so they're good at selling, but their English isn't that great, right? So if you ask them to like come up with a description in English for their shoe, they'll probably say something terrible on it. Like they won't be able to frame a good, decent description which will pitch their shoe in a good light.
Correct.
So that became our third problem statement, which is given that I now have the image, given that I know all these things about the shoe, can I automatically frame a good description for the seller? Again, this now becomes an NLP problem.
NLP, yeah.
Also pretty straightforward because you already have all the data required to do it. So when I finished the ideation stage of this project, I proposed that, okay, so all these are classic CV problems and NLP problems. All these can be tackled. These are the problems we need to solve. This is why it helps the seller. We will save him $400 per shoe on the photo shoot. We will save him this much time in writing down the description for each shoe. They will probably get this much more sales because they have a better description and attributes filled now. Their products will be this much more searchable and so on. So I will present this full pitch saying that this is what we need to do. Sure. And then after that, I go to the execution phase, wherein which I'll go to my data science team and tell them, okay, see, this is our problem statements. Figure it out these models.
Correct.
I will go to my engineering team and be like, okay, we need to get this app built. This app will have to talk to all these data science models. When the seller takes an image, you have to like give back all the responses to the seller in real time. Hence, the latency of the app should be this much. It should be this fast. It should have these features. Engineering will build it out.
Yeah.
I will go to my design team and tell them, we need to get all this done. We need to give real-time feedback to the seller, figure out what is a good way, what is a good interface we can build to give them real-time feedback.
Correct.
And then it does execution and then gets launched. So yeah, that is a pretty good description of what my role was like.
Sure. So, just out of curiosity, this app is being made. Has it been deployed? What stage is it at? Are you still working with this project?
So no, okay. So that comes the second part of your question. Am I still working in this project? I'll answer later.
Sure.
The app, the photoshoot bit hasn't been deployed yet, but the other bits have been.
Okay.
So the photoshoot bit is what is happening next.
Nice. Okay. Sure. So
Nice. Now with the other question, which is, are we still working on this? So the APM role is divided into two 1-year stints.
okay.
So whenever you join Flipkart as an APM, you will have not one stint, but two different 1-year stints.
Okay.
What that means is that Flipkart will. So what Arundam tries to do is he tries to ensure that each person gets as wide an exposure as possible. So what they do is that they ensure you understand all the types of product management that exist.
Okay.
So you might do 1 year as an ML product manager where you do something like this. You might do 1 year as a games product manager because Flipkart is now launching games. You might do 1 year as a video product manager because Flipkart also has an OTT platform right now. You might do 1 year as a social commerce product manager because Flipkart's getting into that as well.
Correct.
So in order to ensure you experience as many facets of product management as possible, while also having enough time to launch your own products,
Correct.
what they do is split it into two 1-year stints. You spend the first year launching your first and understanding one type of product management. You spend the second year launching a different product, understanding a different kind of product management, whether it's on the delivery side or whether it's with videos or games or whatnot.
Correct. Sure. So, like within the company, I would say different types of PMs are basically different sort of problem statements and use cases you're going to be working on.
Right. And remember, so we said before, right, there's this user-facing PM who's like for you and me.
Yeah.
And there are internal PMs who are like for your warehouse guys and so on, right?
Correct.
So you may get that kind of experience. So you understand all these heavy optimization problems as well, as well as understanding softer things like design and interaction and experience and how for people like us.
Got it. That's nice. So, like, given all of this which you described with us, what is something that you really find interesting about your day-to-day role and that really keeps you going each day?
So the value add of a product manager is in the first piece, which is the ideation phase. Like if you will find other people who can do business, other people who can do tech and design and so on. So while there is great learning there, because you're not an expert in any of them, you learn so much from each of them every day.
That's true.
The real value add that you bring and the joy that you bring is in launching your own stuff. So even if it's really, really small, like, so for example, on Flipkart, sometime back, one of our seniors was working on this. So what he saw was that people were coming to the time the app took to load. Okay. So when he launched the app, it would take like some 2-3 seconds for some people to load because of poor net issues. And it was really, really frustrating for them. So he did something very, very small, which is that when something's loading, you see that circle which keeps going around and around, right?
Correct.
So you just increase the speed of that circle to see whether it would have an effect. Okay, like no change at all to the loading time. Just increase the speed of that circle. And what he saw was that people on average were waiting for 20% longer because they felt like there was progress happening because that circle was moving faster now.
Wow.
Right. So even though this is like a really, really small thing, it's launches like these. The fact that you thought of something and you launched it and now millions of people are behaving differently because of it. Millions of people are having fewer problems because of it, or your business objectives are being met because of it.
True.
It's these kind of launches that make the job really satisfying.
That's nice. So, yeah. On the flip side of the coin, are there some aspects which really get cumbersome at times working as a PM?
Right. So one thing that really can get cumbersome after some time is the number of meetings that you have. So as I said, you've seen that Venn diagram, right? You've seen business, design, and tech on it.
Correct.
So since you're sitting in the middle, you have to keep talking to all these three guys as well as keep talking to your users as well to see how they are doing. And so this results in a lot of meetings, right? So sometimes you might feel like there are just too many meetings for you to do. But I would say broadly, that is the one flip side to it. You have a lot of meetings.
Got it.
Apart from that, like in terms of workouts and things like that, the role is really, really nice. So my workouts are strictly 11 to 7, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. with
Okay.
a 1 hour break in the middle for lunch. So,
Hmm.
and I don't get calls outside, I don't get calls on weekends and so on.
Wow, that's nice.
So in those aspects, it's different.
True. Sounds nice, in fact. So, yeah. So, I think you discussed this next question quite a bit, but like, is there anything you would say that is specific to PM, like having worked in a PM role that you really might have learned, which is unique to this sector in your stint so far?
Right. So now this goes back to my thought process behind becoming a PM as well. So
Sure.
the advantage of being a PM is, right, you get to understand how a tech company works really well. So like, for example, if you joined as an engineer in a tech company,
Hmm.
you would understand the coding bits really well,
Yeah.
but you would not understand how strategy is done for a tech company. How do business people think? How does money flow into the company?
True.
Where do I fit in the bigger picture? That is an understanding you don't have, and you don't understand how designing is done, how interfaces are made, and so on.
Correct.
But and similarly, if you're a designer, you will understand design, but you won't understand shit about tech or about
Yeah.
business strategy.
True.
And similarly, if you're a business guy in a company, you understand business, but you won't understand how things are actually built.
Correct.
So the one good thing about being a product manager is that you get a very holistic understanding of how tech companies work. So you understand all three facets of it.
Hmm.
And because of this, you are able to, so like suppose say you were to go launch your own tech company tomorrow.
Hmm.
As an engineer, maybe you would not understand how money flows, and you would have to learn that thing from scratch at that point.
Correct.
If you're a designer, you have to learn that two things from scratch and so on. But as a product manager, you have that overview into how everything works.
Correct.
And that is really helpful if you were to go and launch something yourself in the future.
True.
So I feel like that is one very key learning from this. And it's also the reason why I picked up product management of sorts in the first place. So when I was searching for placements, I had options between consulting and product management. And what I realized was that consulting is great. It teaches you a lot of business. And
Correct.
if you are somebody who in the future wants to shift into, say, FMCG or steel or banking or pharma or sectors like that, right?
Yeah.
There is no better start for you than consulting, probably, because it allows you to feel all these sectors.
Yeah.
But what I realized was that as 4 years as an engineer in STEAM, and as somebody who didn't want to code, but who also didn't want to leave tech behind fully,
Correct.
I realized that what I wanted to do was, I don't care really too much about steel or banking or pharma or those kind of things. I don't really see myself fitting into those kind of companies in the future.
Correct.
But what I wanted to see was how tech works really well. Like if I knew I would be in tech in the future as well, somewhere in a tech company, whether it's design or business or coding or what, I didn't know.
Sure.
Definitely not coding actually, but whether it's business or strategy or what, I didn't know. But I knew I wanted to stay in tech.
Correct.
And I realized that if I wanted to stay in tech, PM is the best way to understand holistically how tech companies work.
True.
Which is
Definitely.
then why I gravitated towards.
So, like, since we're on the subject, at least I have that query, and I've seen that quite a few times. Like, people find consulting roles and PM roles, like, at least from an outsider, to be sort of similar because, like, you have a problem statement. You really need to find a workaround. So, what are the similarities? What are the differences, particularly, if you can sort of highlight them?
Right. So, on that note, you are right. There are obviously similarities between the roles. You'll see this in your interview process as well. Like 1 or 2 rounds between the PM and the consult roles are the same, which is your ability to understand and break down problems.
True.
And the reason that is because that's a core life skill. Like if you can do problem solving cases well, it is generally something that will work well for you regardless of what you do after college. Like it's a very core skill that everyone should have.
Yeah.
But as you've seen with PMs, right? So a PM is supposed to be the master of understanding users, and then is supposed to help tech and design and business and so on go and help and build a product.
Yeah.
But you won't see this in consulting. Consulting is sort of like a no commitment sort of thing, wherein which you spend 2 to 3 months with the sector.
Okay.
You give them a bunch of like 10,000 feet high recommendations, and then you switch. You no longer have any liability in it. It doesn't matter whether it launches or not, whether it fails or not, and so on. Whereas as a product manager, you are responsible for ensuring it launches, You will see how your users respond to it, whether it's successful. If not, you will go back to the drawing board and redesign the product. You will launch again, see whether it works well. If it doesn't, you will go back again. And if it works well, you will see how you can improve the experience more for your users. So while in consulting, you never will get hands dirty. It's always a set of high-level recommendations for the user, which may or may not work out after you leave the company. You never know. But over here, you are responsible for the success of that product, and you will really understand what goes into building successful products.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the core difference. There are a bunch of other differences as well. Like you will have more tech exposure here. You will have like, so I worked with ML, right? So I had some ML exposure here. So these kind of things you won't get in consulting. Consulting is very business oriented.
True.
This is sort of holistic in the sense that you talk to all these different people.
Sure. One sort of counter question, like you said, it's tech exposure. Do you think that is particularly because of the kind of company you're working with? Because that might vanish in another role, in another company's PM role?
So there are two kinds of exposure here. Good question. So one is, when we say exposure, one of them is exposure to design people, tech people, and all that, and business people. So that is there regardless of what company you go to. Okay, that exposure you will get. The product manager role is defined in that way across industry.
Sure.
Now, with respect to Flipkart in particular, there are set of problem statements which are particular to Flipkart. We have videos, and hence you might have an exposure of how a videos product manager thinks as well, which might help out in Netflix or so on later on. We have a search bar which is implemented by Flipkart, so you will have an understanding of how search works as well. We have games now, so you will have an understanding of how games product managers think, and supply chain and so on. So these particular problem statements you won't see in many other companies. So I don't think anyone else has the large number of offerings that Flipkart is trying to get into, frankly. So because of that, you will have a lot more exposure in that sense, as in the number of problem statements. But in terms of stakeholders, you get the same regardless of where you go.
Got it. So, like just one observation that I had seen in PM roles is alums or any people who work in PM quite often laterally shift to other firms and things like that. So firstly, I would say, why is that trend so common? Secondly, what is it that you look for to decide, okay, this is a firm I would want to work in as a PM?
So I'm not really sure by what you mean about the lateral shift thing, but this is my hunch. Just tell me if it's what makes sense.
Sure.
So this is something you generally see in tech as a whole. It's not a PM specific thing. Like you would have seen that amongst engineers as well, right? No one stays in their job for more than 2 to 3 years. You switch after 3 years, you'll switch to another company because they'll like fish you out, right?
Correct.
So this is a trend that you see in management as well, wherein which, so as a tech guy or a PM, you can literally sit anywhere in the world and launch your product if it's a software product.
Okay.
And immediately millions of people have access to it, right?
True.
So it's not like something like banking, wherein which you need like a good manager in each bank, which you have. Like if you have 50 banks across the country, you need a good manager in each of them to ensure your bank does well. But in tech, if you have one good set of people, they can launch a product which will affect millions of people across the world.
True.
It's not like you need to have more people in each location, right?
Yeah.
And because of this, it becomes all the more critical that you have good tech and good product managers with you.
Correct.
Because if you have a good set of product managers, you can launch products that will be used across. Like you don't need 50 good product managers, but you need one good product manager. Sure. And hence each company puts in a lot of effort to ensure they get that good product manager.
I see.
Which is why you see a lot of shifting happening. And same with engineering as well.
True.
If you have like 100 good engineers with you, you're set. So you will do whatever you can to ensure you get those 100 good engineers, which is why you see a lot of shift in the industry. People keep switching because they keep getting good offers.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how the lateral works. Other respect to product management, it's product management is sort of like an exit role rather than an entry role. Like very few companies have associate product manager roles.
Correct.
These are usually the sort of things that you see people getting into, say, after MBAs. So you would have seen people doing consulting, then MBAs, and then after that getting into product management. Like that's the role that Sundar Pichai took as well. I think he became a PM for Chrome after consulting. I think
Correct.
so. But it's not generally something that you see people entering into. So because it's an exit role, you see people shifting around in product management a lot, but you don't really see them shifting into other roles after a while.
Sure. Got it. And let's say like if you were to settle in a company? Because, like, let's say for Flipkart, for example, you have multiple avenues you can work with. What are you sort of building up to, like 10 years down the line? What would be your goal within the company if you have been a PM today?
Right. Um, so generally, people do the PM role for two reasons. One is, so one is you want to stay within the company and keep growing within, building bigger and bigger products. Now, the advantage with this is that if you're in a big company, you immediately have access to millions of users.
Correct.
And hence, whatever you launch will immediately get traction. You don't have to worry about users coming to your platform. You already have millions of them.
True.
Which is why a great starting ground for people who want to product management to start off with, because some things are set for you. You know that even if your product launches and fails, you'll still get 500,000 people using it.
Correct.
Because of scale that your company already has.
True.
Right. But for me personally, so while this is a great starting ground, for me personally, the aim was to try building products on my own later on, to see whether I could launch something on my own. And from that perspective, this gives you a great starting ground, right?
True.
So that sort of, so since PM is usually an exit role, people in PM will stick with PM for a long time. So 10 years down the line, you might see someone becoming head of product or vice president of product one. In fact, you can, so the book that you mentioned, right, my book. So this book has a bunch of interviews with people who have stick with product management for 6 to 7 years, more than that.
Correct.
So in those interviews, you'll get great perspective on what they did and why they did that.
Sure.
For me personally, it's because I wanted that exposure, that flavor of what tech is like. And now post this, I either try building or else what else happened after that.
Got it. So, like, as you did mention that it's not exactly an exit role. Like, people do come here after figuring out their stuff. But let's say if I were to leave a PM role, what are the kind of avenues that people do tend to take? One you mentioned is, like you said, you might be interested in creating your own product, but what other avenues could there be?
Right. So, and this is what would be more useful for you guys here is specifically for the APM role, what avenues would be there, because I'd say product managers are usually in their 30s and so on, right? Like the ones who do it after MBA. So they'll have very different exit than we would.
Sure.
So with respect to the APM role, the role's fairly new, right? It's around 2 years older. So I think we have 2 batches who have successfully graduated from the APM role. And what we've seen from that is that one is a lot of people tend to stay with product. So what generally happens is you do 2 years of what generally happens after this, you do 2 years of a job, you do 2 years of something else post that, and then after that maybe higher studies, right?
Yeah.
So we haven't had anyone who's actually done all these 4 years yet because the role is new. So we aren't yet sure what higher opportunities. That's something that we will have to decide for ourselves.
Sure.
What we have seen is that out of the batch that have graduated before us, some of them have joined Google. There are a couple in like Google Australia and so on. There's someone in Booking.com in Amsterdam. Then there are other people, and there are the majority of people who have stayed within the role, who are still at Flipkart after graduating from the APM program. And there are 1 or 2 who have started companies on their own. So that is roughly the split right now.
Right. It paints quite a picture, sir. Thanks. So I'm going a little bit back to, let's say, your college life. Like you did mention about why you chose PM. You covered the consult comparison angle. But let's say coming back to what are the skills that really helped you get here, you think?
So as I said, right, like some of the interview rounds similar to the PM, to the consult interview round. The rest of them are different set of skills. That is where they really test your user thinking, because that's why that's your value add as a PM. So though they will inculcate this as you join and as an APM, a bit of it you should have at least that mentality of thinking from a user side.
Correct.
So being able to like empathize with people, figure out what problems they have, how these problems can be solved. These are generally the skills they look for in the rest of the interviews as well, because that's what you want in your job and that's what you'll use as a product manager.
True.
So there are a bunch of rounds around product thinking and so on, wherein they'll be like, okay, so this is a user, tell me what problems they might face, tell me what kinds of users might face these problems, how would you go about solving it for these users, what kind of ideas can you think of, what features can we build, and so on.
Correct.
I say that's largely it. You don't really need any tech background. There is an interview round for tech, but you don't really need to know any tech for it. It has some very basic engineering things.
I see. So
no real prep for that round.
Correct. So, like as you mentioned earlier, like product management comes between the tech, user design, and business. They don't expect you to like, really excel in all three right off the bat.
No. So especially not so. Again, this going back to the politician analogy. You don't really need to know any of them. You can pick
Got
them
it.
up on the job as long as you understand the
Sure.
users well enough.
Correct.
Actually, for an associate product manager, right, they know that you really haven't built any products in college. You might have, which is always a
Yeah.
good thing,
Okay.
but a large number of you wouldn't have. So
Correct.
they don't really. They will mentor you through this. The process. So the program is highly. There's a high focus on mentorship,
I see.
and hence they will ensure you, as long as you are smart, they will ensure you pick up these things
Correct.
through the program.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, like it's more about the mentalities you're looking for. So, just a few points I would like to ask you here. Firstly, PORs. Do you think they really helped you in your process? Which PORs were you a part of?
So the broader question is, did the resume help at all? And the answer to that is no. Now that I've been on the other side as well, so that
Okay.
they used to say the resume doesn't matter when I was getting for placements as well. But now that been on the other side of the hiring process, now I actually know that they don't matter. So
Oh.
what they check is a slide deck. So there's like a slide deck submission round,
Correct.
and then post that. So they shortlist plainly based on that. And
I
after
see.
that, it's your interviews. Your resume, so they ask you to submit your resume for like a health check purpose. They
Correct.
don't even look at it usually.
I see.
So there have been people, even things like CGPA and all that. I remember there are people with CGPAs below 4 who have gotten shortlisted for the interview round as well. So it really doesn't matter.
But do you think that is specific to Flipkart, say APM role, or would that be really something generic to PM?
Yeah, this is definitely a Flipkart specific comment. I don't know what the selection process is.
Okay. But do you think anything else, a resume or any sort of experience that would be an asset if you want to pursue a PM role ahead?
So for Flipkart, like as long as you have the skills, it doesn't matter
Sure.
whether you have like stamps on your resume.
Correct.
For the other companies, I'm not sure. I don't know what they would be looking for, and it would be dangerous for me to tell you something based on my hunches. I'd say that's best asked to them.
Definitely. So yeah, so let's say like if I'm a student pursuing a career in PM and wanting to pursue that moving down the line, what are some recommendations you would give that I can do right now? One is to probably better understand what PM role is, maybe through some experience. Secondly, to sort of upskill myself to have those skills they're looking for.
Got it. So good question. I'd say like there's nothing to like stress about. Like you don't have to pick up books or like read cases and do prep and all that. Like though those things are more essential once you're close to your interview date, that's definitely not how you should be preparing right now. So if you just want to know more about the role, so as I said, one good place is to read about the interviews that are there in my book. They will really help you understand the PM role better.
Sure.
The other thing is that read about different products being launched online. So there's this website called Product Hunt, and there's a thing called Hacker News by Y Combinator.
Okay.
So both of these are excellent resources. So whenever anyone in the world launches a new product, right, they usually put it up on these sites to get like initial feedback from other people on these sites.
I see.
So when you go onto these websites like Product Hunt and Hacker News, you will see that there are tons and tons of products and feedback and launches and so on and so forth over there. And that's where you really understand what the role is about, what different people are trying to do, how they're focusing on user problems, how they're trying to solve them, what feedback are they getting. So these are the kind of exciting things that will probably make more sense for people to look at right now.
Sure, makes sense. So like sort of at the end of the questions, but you must have been asked by a couple of people about what PM role is, and especially must have figured out a lot by writing the book itself. Are there any sort of myths or misnomers you think people have when going into a PM role that they should really be aware of before getting into it?
Great question. So one is that associate product manager product is not the products on the website. That's one thing that a surprising number of people have told me. So it's not the shoes and the clothes and whatnot on the website, but tech products that you build behind it.
Correct.
The second is that I don't know, man. Like, why don't you give me some misnomers here, and we can play like Mythbusters over here if you want.
Correct. So one which I had myself was a consult similarities. So that's one. Secondly, I've heard this quite frequently is that PM is like running a startup within a company. Is that true? How is that exactly?
Right. So, yeah, you'd have heard this line, right? Like PM is the CEO of the product and whatnot, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, the answer to that is yes and no. I'll tell you why yes. Yes,
Sure.
because you do the fundamental things that every CEO slash startup should do, which is understand their users well and build good products.
Correct.
So in that sense, yes,
Hmm.
but it's also a big no
Okay.
because there are certain additional responsibilities that a CEO has, which PMs don't. So, for example, when I walk into my
Correct.
office, I don't have to think about how much electricity bill are we paying for all the lights that are on in the office, or
True.
how much are we paying for the land, or like who's hiring the next engineer for the guy who left last week,
Correct.
or like who's going to handle business for us now that business guy is gone, or that our
Correct.
inventory in the warehouse isn't big enough. Like who's going to ensure that their inventory stays, or our brand relations have fallen with say Adidas. Who's going to figure out how to improve that brand relation? Or we're running an advertising campaign tomorrow and it's screwed up and now some people are protesting. Who's going to solve for all that? So there are all these additional responsibilities that a CEO has,
True.
whether it's in a startup or for a CEO of a product,
Hmm.
which a product manager doesn't have.
Sure.
So though you do the core thing, which is understand users,
Hmm.
you don't do a lot of the other things like related to finance and
Correct.
operations and all that.
Sure. Another myth that I've actually heard quite often, and sometimes even I kind of feel worried about it, is like, as you mentioned, you don't need to really be the best in all the three categories PM is known for. But let's say I don't have experience working in a business role, or I have not created an app of my own. Does that completely rule my chances out of this getting into PM?
Oh, no. So yeah, it's a great concern, and I see it's a concern I had as well before joining. Like, why would people want me to build apps for them?
Exactly.
But what you realize is that though all these things like building apps and all, right? They're very easily learnable things
Sure.
if your fundamentals of understanding and problem solving are strong. So
Hmm.
as long as you are able to do those things, it's
Got
very
it.
easy to pick up how an app is built, and that is something that the APM program is specifically designed to tailor and push you through that process to
Hmm.
make sure you understand that process. So as long as you have the required analytical thinking to be able to do it,
Yeah.
you can pick these things up. Maybe it take you. So in my first month on the job, I felt useless. I felt like, why are they paying me to do this? I have literally have no value add to them. But that's the thing, right? So as over the first 3-4 months, you will understand well how to do it. They will make sure they teach you it.
Correct.
After that, you'll be fine.
Sure. So I'll just move on to some questions that we had got from the students. We circulated a form. So the first question was, how is PM different in early stage startup versus Flipkart stage versus a Fortune 500 MNC?
Right. So the answer is partially for early stage startup versus Flipkart. The answer is partially what I've covered before, which is one is you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about the number of users. Like you already have users on Flipkart. So I
Sure.
know that my product will get some traction at least. I already have that brand name and all that. In a startup,
True.
you don't have any of that shit.
Yeah.
So you're starting from scratch. You may just have like 0 users on your first product if it doesn't launch.
True.
The other thing is that in a startup, you will, as a PM, you have to be worried about, there are no like clear boundaries between roles.
Hmm.
So as a PM, you also have to worry about those CEO kind of things, which are like who's paying for the lights and so on.
Yeah.
Whereas in something more established, all that is out of the window.
Sure.
Those are broadly the two distinctions between. Also, yeah, similar to the CEO line, things like hiring and all that are actually very big concerns, which you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about. So broadly the distinction between startup and Flipkart.
Sure.
Flipkart and MNC, there's not really too much of a distinction now, I would say. So maybe a few years back, Flipkart was like that established startup, but still a startup. But ever since it got acquired by Walmart 2-3 years back, it's now, in terms of the way it functions, in terms of the funding that we have, in terms of the stability that's there now,
Correct.
it's really a more mature organization. Like I would not call Flipkart a startup by any metric anymore.
I see.
It's definitely on the other side of established companies. So yeah, that you won't see too much of a difference there.
Sure. The other question was, of course, pros and cons. I think we've covered that in depth. Anything else you'd want to add? Or that's sort of sufficiently covered, right?
Not really, man.
Sure.
Yeah,
So
if you have any other questions, you can ask.
definitely. So the last question that we had from the students was Samsung Edge competition. Do you really think that really helped you sort of get that ideas for the deck and stuff like that? Was it really a good picture, or like was it relevant?
Uh, No, not really, I would say. So I felt like the Samsung competition was more of a consulting thing than a PM thing.
I see.
Because so the problem statement there was India. So Samsung, so India had just undergone demonetization at that point,
Correct.
and Samsung was seeing how they could cash in on it.
Hmm.
This was before Paytm and PhonePe and Google Pay and all that. So Paytm was there, but the others were nothing was really dominant at that time.
Correct.
So it was sort of come up with a strategy for Samsung to enter India-ish. So this obviously has product management style things to it as well, because they would have to launch an app and you need to figure out what the app is and who the target users are and all that.
Yeah.
But that wasn't what we really focused on in the presentation. They had asked us more for things like it was the typical market entry case from a consulting book, man.
I see.
It was more of that, anything else.
Correct. The other question is any sort of suggestions, tips you can have for the interviews of PMs, because I think they play a significant role after your deck entry.
So I'd say like the main difference between so you'll obviously, I'm guessing that most of you will have enough practice with things like guesstimates and problem solving cases, because that's fairly standard across whatever role you apply for. With respect to the PM specific interviews, which is product thinking and tech, it's not something that you can mug up a framework for and go to. Like, so you'll have to basically understand how people think and how products work. So now this sounds very complicated, but it's basically this, right? Like take any product that you like. Let's say you take WhatsApp.
Okay.
And you think, okay, why was WhatsApp made? What problem was WhatsApp solving? And if you sit and think about that for 3 to 5 minutes, who's the user and what problems are they solving for them? That itself will give you the tools required to killer product thinking cases, because you're doing literally that in a product thinking case. If you can answer the why behind every product, why was Google Hangouts created, why was Zoom created, why was YouTube created, and so on. If you do that enough times, like maybe 3 to 5 times with different apps, you will be much better off in tackling product management specific questions.
Sure. And yeah, just saying the last question out loud, I would also ask for any suggestions for deck preparation. Would it be similar?
So I don't think so I don't know how the deck will be this year. That's something I won't be a part of in deciding.
Sure.
But I don't think I add anything more to these things than what's there in my book, man. Like what I say now will probably be worse than what's written there, because I spend more time writing it there than I am.
That certainly makes sense. Sure. Cool. So now just a few questions about like the current COVID situation. Firstly, how exactly is your work changed? Like has it, because you briefly also mentioned it works remotely a lot. So how much of impact has it had?
Right. So it's had a big impact in the sense that we no longer go to office. So since I think a week before lockdown, we had this trial in the office where we decided to see whether work from home would work out. So we did like a week of work from home.
Correct.
Little did we know that a week would then become 3.5 months now. And we haven't gone back to office since then. I don't think we will be for a long time as well.
True.
It hasn't really affected the role though. I'd say we're actually become slightly more productive because we aren't in the same office anymore. So fewer distractions in that sense. So there's been no effect due to work from home except for the fact that, well, you're no longer in office.
Right. Sure. And like, so again, given the situation, the upcoming placement is slightly of a concern to this 2021 graduation batch. So is there any suggestion or advice you would have for them, or something that they can engage in themselves so that they can be a bit more prepared for when placements actually do happen?
Right. So I spoke to HR about this yesterday to ask what our placement situation would be like. And so this is coming back to the point that I said before, that Flipkart's no longer a startup. We now have Walmart backing and a lot of funds that come with it. Like fund is something that's no longer a problem. And thankfully, the e-commerce industry has bounced back much faster than anybody else in COVID. In fact, I think now our current daily sales is higher than what it was before the COVID period.
Yeah.
So because of that, like from a financial standpoint, Flipkart is doing actually better than before now. So even though the pandemic has been like a really horrible thing for everyone, like the one small silver lining is that Flipkart was unaffected by it completely, and it's grown stronger at the end of it. So I don't think there's going to be any effect in terms of hiring numbers or anything like that this year. In fact, HR told me yesterday that there wouldn't be for this year.
Sure.
With respect to prep, I'm not really sure if there's anything unique that you guys need to do, man.
Got it.
I don't think that will affect you too much.
Sure.
Something.
Sure. Good. I think that's pretty much it from our side. We covered most of the questions we had in mind. So Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure I can speak on behalf of the students that this was really informative, insightful, and a lot of myths were busted for sure. So thanks again. Take care.
Thanks, man. Thanks for starting and ending this on time. I'm really shocked, dude. Good job.
Thanks, man. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.